Good afternoon. I welcome you on behalf of TNV Academy. I am the host for the today's webinar. My name is Ajay Bajpayee, and this presentation is being conducted for 27001 2022 version of the standard. Many of you have been qualified through the old version standard 2013 or 27001. So this version, as we know, keeps on changing in 8 9 years depending upon the feedback the boards and the committees receive from various users, which is the certification body, the client, auditors, and trainers. So this version has been revised in October 2022, and we will be discussing the high point, the main changes here. The speaker for the today's seminar is Mr. Apur Malik, who has got a lot of experience into conduct of the ISMS related training activities, awareness, and lead auditor courses. He has been an implementer also for a couple of years. I'm sure you will benefit from his knowledge and experience here. As TNV Certification Private Limited, we have already started issuing the transition certificates to new version 2022. We have issued to one of the trainers, the candidates with us who has qualified with other standard 2013 version. He is based in USA, so he has just taken a transition certificate. And we have also received many application forms for going for the transition courses, which will make them enable as an implementer for new version, which will make them a trainer for the new version, which will make them auditor for the new version, and the new version transition and other details globally will be discussed with Mr. Apur Malik soon after I finish my this thing. We are a global training provider of these standards, and maybe we are the first one to start this in detail to issue the certificates as well. So I am sure you will benefit with this presentation, and thereafter we will be conducting the further courses also, which we'll discuss after this meeting. So it is up to Apur now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bajpayee sir, for the overwhelming introduction you have given about me and about TNV as well. And as described by Mr. Bajpayee, that we probably are the first organization who has taken up this particular activity of performing trainings and making awareness about the transition of ISO 27001 to auditors and to organizations as well. So the agenda of this particular session, which we are going to conduct today, is giving you all a brief description about the transition which has been introduced in October 2025 to ISO 27001, that is Information Security Management System Standard. So we will be discussing what changes has been incurred into the new version of this particular standard, but the discussion will be very brief. We will not be going in detail in this webinar about the changes which has been incurred in the standard. The changes will be probably be discussed in the later sessions of this particular topic. So this particular training document, is intended to explain the major changes introduced in ISO 27001:2022 standard as compared to the previous version of the standard, which is ISO 27001:2013. So, before we start, let's have a brief look about the ISO 27001 standard. So we must understand what the standard is all about, what purpose does it serves to organizations who decide to implement ISO 27001 standard within their premises or within their processes. So ISO 27001 is an information security standard created by the International Organization for Standardization along with IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission, which provides a framework and guidelines for establishing, implementing, and managing an information security management system. The basic goal of ISO 27001 is to help organizations protect their critical information assets and comply with applicable legal and regulatory requirements. So basically, ISO 27001 also includes a set of control objectives and activities to help organizations reduce the risk of data breaches and other security incidents from their processes and procedures. So organizations may use ISO 27001, as part of their overall information security strategy, or they can choose to be certified by an ISO accredited certification body as well. ISO 27001 certification, shows an organization's commitment to protecting their critical data assets and complying with applicable laws and regulations as well. The ISO basically, provides a framework which is a combination of policies and processes for organizations to use, and this is very common across all the standards which has been published by ISO till date. Similarly, ISO 27001 provides a framework to help organizations, of any size or any industry, to protect their information in a systematic and cost-effective way through the adoption of an information security management system. This particular, standard, the ISO 27001, not only provide companies with the necessary know-how for protecting their most valuable information, but a company can also get certified against ISO 27001, and in this way it can prove to its customers and partners that it safeguards their data. As we learned earlier as well, the ISO 27001 is basically set upon three major principles, three major aspects of information, which is confidentiality, which means only the authorized persons have the right to access information. The second one is integrity. It means only the authorized persons can change the information. And the third one is availability, which means the information must be accessible to authorized persons whenever it is needed. So this was a brief about the ISO 27001 standard, and let us now look at the version 2013. So what 2013 version basically stood for, and what was its structure. So ISO 27001 2013 was previously titled as, this particular version was titled as ISO IEC 27001 2013 Information Technology, Security Techniques, Information Security Management Systems and Requirements. So basically, this particular version was more intended to serve these three principles which we discussed: the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of organization availability of information within an organization. 2013 version of the standard was named as ISO IEC 27001 2013 Information Technology, Security Techniques, Information Security Management Systems Requirements. So basically, this particular version of the standard was much more intended to prevent any specific critical any specific theft or challenge to the information and data which is stored within an organization, and used certain kind of security techniques to prevent these three principles which we discussed, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the information within an organization. The structure of ISO 27001 2013 version was basically set up on the same platform, which is the plan, do, check, act cycle, on which every standard of which ISO has published is based upon. So in the planning section, there were 4 clauses, which is 4, 5, 6, and 7, which were further disintegrated into these subclauses, which are I'm presenting on your screen. So clause 4 was talking about the context of the organization, which was further disintegrated into 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4 subclauses. That is understanding organization and its context, expectation of interested parties, the scope of ISMS, and the ISMS itself, its implementation. The 5th clause was about leadership, which was disintegrated into 3 subclauses, that is leadership and commitment, the ISMS policy, and the roles and responsibilities and authorities of the personnel who will be working within the parameter of the ISMS, which is going to be implemented within the organization. The 6th clause was planning, in which there were 2 subclauses, that is actions to address risk and opportunities that are pertaining to information security, and information security objectives and planning to achieve them. The 7th clause was support. Support was further disintegrated into 4 subclauses, that is resources, competence, awareness, and communication. So what resources the organization will require, for in the successful implementation of the ISMS. Then the competence of those resources, they are competent enough or not to work within the parameter of the ISMS. Do they have awareness about the information security management system or not? And effective communication, that whatever implementation within the ISMS is being done, it is communicated effectively throughout the organization. Then we come into the do part, in which clause 8 comes into the picture, that is operations. So it is further disintegrated into three subclauses, that is operational planning and control, information security risk assessment, and information security risk treatment. The check part has the ninth clause, which is performance evaluation. So within performance evaluation, we have again three subclauses, that is monitoring, measurement and analysis, internal audit, and management review. And the final part is act, in which the final clause of ISMS standard is covered, that is continual improvement, you can say, or improvement you can say, because continual improvement is covered in the second subclause of this particular standard, and the first is non-conformity and corrective action. So this was then overall structure of ISO 27001 2013, and the need to understand this particular structure at this point is, where we are going to discuss about the major changes which has been incurred into the 2022 version. So when we will be looking at the structure of 27001 2022 version of the standard, we will see that few of the clauses has been merged or renamed, or some new subclauses has been added, few subclauses has been merged into a single subclause. So there will be a difference in the structure when we will be reviewing the structure of ISO 27001 2022 version. Now, apart from these particular clauses, which ISO 27001 2013 version has, this particular standard also has an annexure A, in which the security controls of 27001 2013 has been described or set up. So basically, there are 14 major elements, or you can say the security controls or the chapters of security controls, which are included in the annexure A, which I have listed over here in this particular image. And then each of the particular security control has control objectives and specific controls to be applied. So if you will count them, so the control objectives are 35 in 2013 version, and the controls are approximately 114. And we again will have to review this particular Annex A structure to the structure of 2022 version, because several controls has been omitted, several controls has been deleted from the structure of Annex A, and few of the controls has been merged or combined together with other security controls, and the controls has been now decreased. So these controls basically talks about everything which is related to information security management system, which is going to be implemented within an organization. As you can see that control A5, which is listed over here at the top, is information security policies. So what kind of ISMS policies you will have to frame within your organization, which are pertaining to the activities, kind of activities, information technology activities your organization performs. So you will be deciding that what kind of policies you would require to frame and to follow within the perimeter of the ISMS. Then it is organization of information security. So within the organization of information security, you basically tells the personnel working within the organization that what particular data and information are the most critical one, crucial one, which needs to be protected at the most. So this is the organization of information security. Then you have human resources security, asset management. All the assets that you have within the organization, they should be managed properly. They should be kept away from any kind of theft, or any kind of danger from getting lost, or theft, or any kind of a thing which may relate or take you to a situation where your ISMS basically fails. Then we have access control. So whatever specific areas you have within the organization that are prohibited to be accessed by certain number of people, so you decide the control that who can access a particular area, the server room, who can access the server room, who can access the linkage backup servers. All these things needs to be described in this particular control. Then you have cryptography, how you secure your information, which technique of cryptography do you use to secure information when you are sending the information across the organizations or outside your organization. Then you have physical and environmental security. So physical and security of your organization, the environmental security of the organization, the data as well, is all considered and captured into this particular control. You have operations security, you have communication security, system acquisition, development and maintenance. So you have all the assets within your organization, you are buying new assets, you are maintaining those assets. So what kind of people you have identified who will be maintaining and serving, or working with you in parallel to ensure that everything goes on smooth within the organization. Then we have supplier relationships. Supplier relationship mean that the vendors who are, giving you certain kind of assets, or what which are used in the softwares, the hardwares. So what kind of supplier relationship you have, you will have to establish it. Information security, incident management. So any kind of an incident relating to information security or information technology, a malware, an antivirus attack, data theft. So all these things will be understood and properly maintained in this particular control. Then you have information security aspects of business continuity management. So whatever crisis you have, whether they are internal or external, whether they are controllable or non-controllable, that should not affect your business continuity. So you must have a policy or a procedure in place that whatever be the situation, internal or external or across the globe, your business will not fall into the loss, or not fall into a situation where you are not able to move forward. So you must have a business continuity plan as well. And the final one is compliance. So compliance is basically looking out towards the requirements of the standard, and always ensuring that you are following the requirements of the standard, and you are properly achieving the objectives which are set by the requirements of this particular standard. So this is the overall structure of Annex A, which consists of the security controls of ISO 27001:2013 standard. Now, if you talk about the new version, which is 27001:2022, so we must have a look that what changes have been introduced into this particular standard. We will not describe the changes in detail, as I said earlier as well. We'll just have a brief look that what new has been added to this particular version of the standard. So ISO 27001 Information Security Management System standard was revised by ISO IEC on 25th October 2022. So this revision has brought change to the title of the standard as well. We saw the title of the 2013 version. I can show you again. This was the original title of the earlier version: Information Technology Security Techniques, Information Security Management Systems Requirements. And now the title has been renamed to ISO IEC 27001:2022, Information Security, Cyber Security, Privacy Protection, Information Security Management Systems Requirements. It is pretty much evident that earlier the 2013 version was not much more focused on the cyber security and privacy protection platform, although it did basically engaged itself in the privacy and protection of the information and data which falls within an organization. But now in this particular version, the cyber security angle and the privacy protection angle has also been added to the standard. So this is an overview of the changes which has been introduced in the ISO 27001:2022 version. So main changes I have listed over here. We will be talking, as I said, we'll be talking about these changes in detail in the later sessions where we will be conducting on this transition. So the basic changes, as the first change, we saw that the title has been changed from the earlier version. Then the 93 controls the controls which we saw in Annex A just now of the 2013 version, the count was 114. And now the number of controls in Annex A has been decreased to 93. So the control count has decreased. The 93 controls have been restructured into 4 sections of Annex A. 11 new controls has been added to Annexure A, security controls. The clauses of the standard, which is clause 4 to 10, which we just discussed in the plan, do, check, act cycle of 2013 version, have undergone several minor updates. So few of the points has been added into the clauses and subclauses. Few of the points has been omitted. Few of the points has been merged. We will be looking at in detail that what changes has been done in the clauses section. And as I said, the new title is now ISO IEC 27001:2022, Information Security, Cyber Security, and Privacy Protection. So title has also changed for the standard. So this is just an overview of the changes which has been incurred into this version of this ISMS. Now, what does this particular transition means to organizations? So there must be organizations who are already certified against the 27001 2013 version. So now, when this transition comes into the picture of the standard, what it means to the organizations who are already certified to the standard. So basically, a few points of the organizations has to, taken up take should take up for their review, that what this transition means for them. So we need to understand that there is a 3-year transition period from the publication date of ISO 27001:2022. This means businesses will need to meet the requirements and get certified to the new version by October 2025. This is the first thing that the organizations need to understand. Then the second thing is, if your business or organization is already certified to ISO 27001:2013 version, you can continue to have your audits conducted against the 2013 standard requirements during the transition period, but you will need to update your ISMS, be audited against the new 2022 requirements, and achieve certification to ISO 27001:2022 before October 2025. The third considerable point is, till October 2025, both the versions of standard, that is 2013 and 2022, will coexist. And after 24th October 2025, the 2013 version will not exist for certification purpose, and the organizations will have to seek certification for 2022 version only. The fourth and the final point, which organizations needs to review, is the best time to arrange their transition audit is at one of their scheduled surveillance or recertification audits. However, if this particular timing doesn't work out for the organizations who are seeking the implementation of 2022 version within their organization, it can be through a separate audit as well. And the transition audit needs to include few necessary points, which I am going to discuss over here. The first one is an assessment against ISO 27001:2022 and the need for changes to their ISMS that should be understood properly. Then the second one is the statement of applicability will have to be updated. The third one is, if applicable, the updating of the risk treatment plan should also be done. And the fourth one is the implementation and effectiveness of the new or change controls chosen must be documented properly with evidence. Also, one important point organizations need to understand, that as a minimum, the transition audit needs to include at least an additional zero point 0.5 man-day that has to be added to the transition audit. Also, it is important to note that all certifications based on ISO 27001:2013 will expire or be withdrawn at the end of the transition period, that is by 24th October 2025. So this is the original meaning which this transition makes to the organizations who are already certified to 2013 version of ISMS, and what they basically have to do. Now, how should organizations prepare for this particular transition? What should be the major steps that the organizations should take while they are planning to move into this transition of the 2022 version of the standard? So again, I'll be discussing all these requirements in point wise pro forma, so that you are easy to understand. So what organizations will have to do to move into this transition of the 2022 version? Basically, organization can make or adapt to this transition by following simple steps, which I'm going to elaborate here one by one. The first one is reviewing the new requirements mentioned in the 2022 version document of ISO 27001 and familiarizing themselves and their team with the changes. So first one is that the 2022 version of the standard should be read properly by the organizations. The organizations should make their staff, their personnel, inform and communicate them with the new requirements which has been added into the version, so that till the transition period comes, everyone is aware about the and is familiarized about the new requirements which has been mentioned in the 2022 version of the standard. The second one the organizations can do is conducting a gap analysis. So this will include reviewing the security controls, as many of them have been merged, updated, or new additions has also been done. So this will help the organizations determine what will be affected, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be implemented now against the 2022 version. Ideally, this activity is performed by an ISO certification expert, and who can conduct this to provide the organizations with a report containing all the gaps and recommendations to best upgrade their system to the new changes. The third thing which organizations can do is updating their ISMS and implementing the changes. Now, once they have understood the new requirements, they have conducted the gap analysis, they will now update the ISMS to the 2022 version and implement the changes which has been incurred in the new standards. So many businesses will opt to use a consultant basically because they are aware of the changes, they know about the standard, they are well and thorough about the requirements of the standard. So consultant would help them with this particular transition process. Consultants can assist businesses implement the new requirements in a way that suits their existing ISMS, works for their current business practices as well. So engaging a consultant will also help minimize the risk of getting non-conformances during external audits and losing your certification from not addressing to the new requirements of the standard. Now, once you have updated your ISMS and you have implemented the changes, the next step is completing an internal audit. So you need to perform an internal audit before an external party or a certification body comes and judges you against the new version of the standard. How much you are prepared, have you understood the changes or not? You need to perform a complete internal audit so that you self judge or self assess yourself that whether you have successfully understood the new requirements or not. To help identify if your management system meets the updated ISO 27001:2022 requirements, or if it is still require further improvements, an internal audit will help you. It is important, to note that internal audits must be conducted by somebody who is trained and competent to ensure that the business gets the most out of this particular process of internal audit. And the final activity which organizations would have to perform is, once they have done all these four things which I have discussed, the final activity they need to perform is conducting a management review. Once the internal audit is done, they will have to conduct a management review to evaluate whether the ISMS is performing effectively after the changes have been implemented, and if its suitability and adequacy have remained or not. So if they feel that still there are areas of improvement, they will note it down, they will jot the points down, they will again implement them, and again the same process will continue. They will again go for an internal audit, they will again sit for a management review meeting, and they will assess and discuss that whatever points we discussed in the earlier management review meeting, have those points been implemented now or not, and whether that have affected our performance of SMS or not. So basically, these 5 steps will help the organization for making themselves prepared for this particular transition of ISMS. Now, what approach TNV is following to help the auditor, help our auditors in transition? So we have certain programs for the new auditors as well. We have certain programs for the existing auditors as well, which I have listed over here. So TNV has developed an 8-hour one-day transition training program for existing auditors of the ISO 27001 who already are certified against the 2013 requirements. Those auditor can take the 8-hour one-day training transition program, and they can switch on to the transition version of the standard. TNV has developed an 40 hours, 5 days lead auditor training program on the new version of ISO 27001 for new auditors who are seeking to become lead auditor for this particular standard. So if someone is seeking to become a lead auditor for ISO 27001, the 2022 version, they will have to undergo a 40-hour or 5-day lead auditor training program being conducted by us. Both of these programs can be taken up in both offline and online mode respectively. So you can come to the place where the training is going on physically, or you can join the training sessions online as well. These extensive and efficient learning programs are useful for implementers of the standard within organizations. So every organization has certain implementers who have the complete knowledge of the standard. They help the organization in implementing the standard. So it is useful for the implementers as well as for the first party, second party, and third party auditors. The very shining point or the USP of our training programs is that all our training programs are certified by Exemplar Global, which is a renowned and prestigious body known across the world for ISO training programs. So this is the basic approach which TNV is following for helping the auditors making into the transition of 2022 version. I have attached few sample certificates for both of these programs which I discussed, which is visible on your screen. This is the sample certificate for the 8-hour transition training program for auditors who are existing auditors of the standard. So this is the certificate which is being issued to all the existing auditors once they have completed the 8-hour training with us. Then we have the 40-hour training program of lead auditors who are seeking, who are new auditors and seeking the knowledge and training on ISO 27001 2022 version of the standard. So this is the certificate which is being issued to successfully issued after the successful completion of the 40-hour learning course. And this is the certificate which we basically issue. This is only a sample certificate. I'll show you one more certificate which Bajpai sir was discussing earlier, that we have already certified one of our candidates against the 2022 version requirements. I'll just show you that as well. Just a moment. So this is the certificate which we have recently issued to Mr. Mohammad Zakir Hussain after he has completed the 8-hour transition training with us. He is an existing auditor with us based in USA for ISMS standard. And recently he took this particular training from TNV, and this is the certificate which we have recently issued to him after the successful completion of the awareness training or the transition training he has taken on the standard. So that's it. This was the major agenda of today's webinar or this particular meeting, that we take a look at the basic changes which are being introduced into the standard, and what changes has been introduced in the 2022 version of the standard. What was the earlier structure of the standard? Now the structure has been redefined. So we just took a brief look about the changes which has been introduced into the standard. As I said, we will be discussing the changes in detail in the later sessions. We will be conducting some more sessions on the transition part of ISMS, and then these changes will be discussed in detail, and we will be taking up your questions as well in those later seminars which we'll be conducting. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much, Bajpai sir.
अनिल, कोई सवाल आपका? क्योंकि ये अभी दिस ट्रांजिशन वी हैव द वर्क वी हैव स्टार्टेड and this is something new, and we will keep on discussing, so maybe we'll have a lot of question answers later on also. The participant will give feedback, and when our webinar is going uploaded onto the our YouTube channel, they will have more questions. So whenever this transition takes place, a lot of questions and revision into the presentation and requirement takes place as the ISO community, the trainer, the faculty, the certification bodies goes on understanding these requirements. And as we have understood that, what were the earlier requirements, as explained very well by Apur, and he has also explained the terminology, so that our concepts are clear on how our teams have been trained upon the earlier versions and how they will be, transmitting to the new version of standard to 27,2022. Also, we have understood that it has linkages with the BCMS 22301 standard. Also, it has the linkage with PIMS, the Privacy Information Management System, which is 27701. So those standard will also require modifications as required. So I am sure we all have benefited by the presentation done by Apur Malik, and he has shown the greater depth of understanding he has onto the subject. So I'm sure that once we upload this onto our YouTube channel, many participants can view it as many times as they want, and they can have questions to us, and we will forward it to Apur Malik so that he can give reply to them. So thank you very much for the participation, and we'll be coming up with many more seminars regarding transition. As he has discussed, we can have online, offline, both kinds of session. We will also be having an examination for the candidates. We will be sharing the training material and the detailed PPT with them, also along with the examination material, so they can appear into the examination, and then the final transition certificate will be provided to them. And as usual, for the full-fledged 40 hours course, the examination and the full presentation is available with us. So candidates can undergo that training as well. So thank you very much, Apurv, and the other participants for attending this seminar. See you in the next session very, very soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye and best of luck to all of us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.